I saw some news, actually pretty close to when we recorded, that Come From Away will be closing in September in New York, which is a bummer to me because I saw that when I went to New York when I graduated college. I saw that, SpongeBob musical, and The Iceman Cometh with Denzel. And Come From Away was really good. I remember I did standing room only, and I cried like for the last 10 minutes straight. But I was actually a little bummed it was closing because it's COVID closing, and it's got, like, the numbers are down because of COVID, you know, because it is a tourist show. It's 100% a tourist show. But it's like kind of a bummer they couldn't keep it going still till like the tourism is back, because I do legitimately think it's a special show that felt, maybe it's a little chintzy to say this, but I do think it's more special seeing it in New York, because it's like you go to the 9/11 museum and then you go there. You get to see this wonderful work of art about the day that makes you feel all the sorrow that museum gives you too. Because to me, when I went to the 9/11 museum, personally, damn, I immediately went way heavy. But when I went to the 9/11 museum,
we said we didn't want to do this, and
well,
and
no,
like,
but when
I
went
have
to
a special
the
third topic,
when
that
I went
would
to
be heavy.
So I went to. It's not as this is like heavy we can talk about. When I went to the 9/11 museum, I remember I didn't go when I saw From Away. I did it the second time I went to New York. But when you go to the 9/11 museum, at least for me, it's just kind of like, I was kind of just like in shock, like at how like sad I was. I didn't ever like cry or anything. It was just like an intense sorrow gripped me the entire time I was there. But like, I didn't like get the catharsis, you know? So to me, it's like you go to the 9/11 museum and then you see Come From Away and get the catharsis. I don't know. That it does sound really like chintzy, but I don't know.
No,
I just think it's a bummer that it's closing.
Yeah, well, I'm honestly impressed that it's been open for as long as it has been. Dear Evan Hansen is closing.
That's also,
and I thought that was because it was just time for that. I didn't even know that Come From Away was still out there doing its thing. So
I think Come From Away has done. I think Dear Evan Hansen. I actually want to talk about Dear Evan Hansen closing too. Dear Evan Hansen is fascinating to me because I'm pretty sure it closed almost exclusively because of the movie. Like, because everyone hated the movie. I don't know a single person who likes the movie. I don't like the movie, and I like singing on stage. And if you're going to see the movie, everyone's telling you, oh, it's better on stage. But if you see the movie and you hate the movie, you're not going to be like, I doubt it. Most people are going to be like, I doubt it's improved that much that it's worth me spending $120 for a ticket to see it, you know? I think unlike Hamilton, right? Hamilton is on Disney+. You can watch it with the original cast. You can still go, like, I presume it's still doing really well on Broadway. It's because now it's like, yeah, you can see the story at home, but you don't get to feel the story. You don't get to immerse yourself in the story. Now it's like a concert type of thing, you know? Like, it's like, I'm going to see, you wouldn't say it, you're still seeing Hamilton, but it's like, comparison is like, I listened to the album, I watched, like, the recorded version, but now I'm seeing it in live. So that to me is why it's still a big deal. And that's why I actually think, because I remember, I don't know if this happened or not, you probably do have information on if it's happened or not because of your connections. But I remember during the pandemic, Anais Mitchell, or the director, Rachel Chavin, is that her name? Rachel Chavin?
It is, Rachel Chavkin is the director.
Yeah. I don't know if she did it or not. I think Hadestown, though, could get away with releasing it and people still going to see it in concert, you know? The difference is Dear Evan Hansen is like a bad movie version of it. Where, like, I think the show is way better than the movie. But are people going to spend money on it to figure that out? No. So, they can stunt cast as much as they want. I don't think it's going to work, you know? Whereas Come From Away, it did the same thing where there's a pro shot, but it's on Apple TV+, so it's not like anyone knows that pro shot exists. So, and
I think people have Apple TV Plus because of Ted Lasso. I think that there's a market out there for that.
I feel like they have another big show, but I can't remember what it. Oh, Severance is doing really well for them, so I need to check that out. I've heard really good things.
They're on their way, not like YouTube. They had one hit and then they kind of. I mean, maybe they'll come back, but it's interesting to compare Apple now. They're kind of like on the up, and you can compare them to something like YouTube, which has kind of been trying to get a foothold.
I was going to compare them to Netflix, because you just made me think about how, Coda won the Oscar last year before Netflix ever won. Netflix has never won Best Picture, whereas Coda won on Apple TV Plus's first try.
I did not know that about Coda.
Yeah, it's Apple TV Plus. And it's funny, because did you see those articles about how Netflix is going to cut back on their movies and make less of them and not invest in quotes from Variety, not from Netflix, no, Hollywood Reporter, not from Netflix himself. We're going to cut back on vanity projects like The Irishman.
I did because you sent me that article about Noah Baumbach, but I've only read that.
The Noah Baumbach article is fake news, by the way. We're not going to talk about the Noah Baumbach article. It is not sourced well enough for us to take as fact. It is
Wait,
not.
So you sent me fake news?
I guess
and then you're like, don't talk about fake news, Mark.
I guess I told the other people. I guess I forgot to send it to you because we don't usually talk about Noah Baumbach. But anyway,
well, I've been got, everyone.
I think the Coda thing to me, I think it's funny because I really do think it's like Netflix spends like $60 million, that's probably too much, $40 million on The Power of the Dog, gets 12 nominations but only 1 win, whereas Coda spent half that amount of money for a movie he didn't even produce, Apple TV Plus, and they win the big one that Netflix has been aiming for all the time and gets a clean sweep of all their nominations. So to me, it's like Netflix is like, why do we bother giving Jane Campion, Martin Scorsese the money to make these movies if they can just pick up something from Sundance and campaign it their way to the stage? There's a rumor going around that's pretty sourced well that Netflix is trying to negotiate to give Knives Out an actual run in theaters, Knives Out 2, before going on Netflix. Because they're like, well, we probably overpaid for these, so we should probably put them in theaters and make some money off of it.
I thought Knives Out did make money in theaters.
Yeah, but the sequel isn't being made by Lionsgate. Netflix bought them out. They're paying Daniel Craig, I believe. I think the deal was $400 million for them for 2 movies. $100 million of those $400 million for 2 movies goes directly to Rian Johnson and his producing partner, and the other $100 million goes to Daniel Craig for both movies. So then there's a $200 million budget for the other movie, for the other
well, now
movies.
It sounds like Knives Out was the reason they made this call, because you have this cast of stars who are going to demand all of this money, and
well, also Knives Out,
you're making a murder mystery.
And Knives Out did so well. Knives Out, like, if you look at the money Knives Out made, like, people talk about, like, you know, oh, will adult movies come back? You know what I mean? Like, mid-budget movies marketed to adults, will they come back? Like, and movies marketed to adults are coming back. Top Gun Maverick might make $600 million in the US. That's insane. Oh, like, I think we talked about that last episode, but, like, Top Gun Maverick is huge. Like, what? Anyway, but then if you look at, like, 2019, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood did more than $100 million. Little Women did more than $100 million. Knives Out did more than $100 million. Joker, superhero movie, but, like, it was a movie it was marketed as the superhero movie for plebeians, and it made $350 million, I'm pretty sure, in the US.
This weekend has been a really busy work week for me. I'm between shows as we're recording this, so I don't have a whole lot that I've been able to watch and catch up on and really... Oh, actually I have. I saw 2 Mike Leigh movies, Secrets and Lies and Naked. And
I've been meaning to watch Naked. I haven't seen
Naked is it's really hard to find, and that's why I made the point of, in my really busy week, I'm going to make a point and go see Naked when they're showing it.
It's like why I saw Hard Boiled recently. Yeah, and actually, this weekend I'm going to hopefully see The Clock, which is a Judy Garland film that's really hard to find too. So, But yeah, I get what you mean. It's a struggle when you see, oh, they're showing a movie that's not available. I gotta go.
And so I'm going to put 2 things out into the world for our listeners to respond to. The first is a controversial Mike Leigh take. Are you familiar with the Mike Leigh movies?
I am, but you're like, this is a Pixar podcast, so I want all of our listeners to respond to these takes on Mike Leigh. Like, a filmmaker who's the definition of not a name brand.
Okay, forget about Mike Leigh.
Sorry.
My other thing is, I am drinking right now because it is allergy season. That's the other news in my life. I'm drinking a mix of hot water, rice vinegar, spicy honey, and then some grenadine that I had around.
Okay, good. I was waiting for the alcohol, because you can't say, I'm drinking right now.
Well, grenadine's not alcoholic. It's a...
What the heck? Oh, wait, that makes sense. I always put in my cherry Coke. This is really embarrassing.
No, I mean, well, grenadine it might. I know grenadine's an alcoholic. I'm thinking of things like, oh, it's like a sweet liqueur that you put in, so it's like technically alcoholic. But I don't think grenadine is. I think grenadine is just syrup. I just wanted to throw it out there because I think this is fun because I started doing it because I saw in a Beatles documentary that I think, like George Harrison says, that he was drinking vinegar backstage because he saw or heard that Barbra Streisand did it. And, I finally saw Funny Girl, the movie, for the first time, like 2 weeks ago. I was wondering
which one.
Yeah, that's...
I haven't seen it. No, I was wondering which one, because I know that the Beanie Feldstein show is a thing, too.
Oh, yeah. Because you responded so quickly, I thought you were talking about which Barbra Streisand, but you're just really actively listening right now, and I was like, wait, dude. What?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I don't know.
This is my issue. On all my podcasts, I run way too fast for my other co-host to listen, to respond.
No, I mean, that's fine. That's good. That's good improv form. You're listening to what I'm saying. I just wanted to put out there, what are our listeners' favorite things to drink so they sound good on microphones? Email us at lookingfortheoceanpixar@gmail.com. Anyway, that's what I've got.
We'll get back to you in a month on that because we record these episodes a month before they come out, basically. So
yes, hopefully allergy season will be over, but just good information to put out into the world.
All right, so now we're gonna play our games because Mark has a game that he has not explained to me yet that I'm gonna have to play. But I have my game that I introduced last week that we're currently titling the Letterboxd Game. Do 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 do. Maybe at some point Mark will write a song for it instead of me just doing the John Cena music.
Let's just do the Mike Cena sound.
Just say Mike Cena. You just said Mike Cena.
Wait.
Oh
man.
Name is John Cena.
Anyway, the Letterboxd Game.
The Letterboxd Game is a game where Letterboxd has recently added Letterboxd, the website that lets you review, log movies, keep track of what you've seen, has added something to it where they say the 5 films, well, more than 5, but for the sake of our game, 5 films that are most related to that film algorithmically. The goal of this game is I'm going to pick one of the movies I've seen the last week, and then I'm going to read Mark the first 5 most related films to that film. If there's a film by the same director, it's removed. If there's a film in the same franchise, it is removed. All right, so what I did was I saw 10 movies since we recorded last. Some of them were for podcasts.
Which was a week ago, which is incredible.
Yeah. I put all 10 movies into a random number generator. I'm going to let Mark pick a number, and that will be the movie that I give him it for. Pick a number between 1 and 10. I have 10 films.
6.
All right, let me open it up.
Audience at home, pick a number.
Okay, but it's not gonna work like that. All right. Number 6. Your 5 films are The Grudge, The Woman in Black, Hereditary, Paranormal Activity, 1408.
Was it Midsummer?
No, because the director can't repeat. That's your first guess. After second guess, I'll give it a hint.
Okay. So that's...
Do you not want that guess to count? Because you forgot the rule of this game that you were like, Danny, make this a game. I love the ideas and all the rules.
I love the game and I love the concept. I think...
Do you want me to read the movies
wonderful.
again?
I still have no idea.
Do you want me to read the movies again? The Grudge, The Woman in Black, Hereditary, Paranormal Activity, 1408.
Can I ask, is this a... last 5 years movie?
You cannot ask because after you get the second guess, I give you the year it's from.
Oh,
so I will not answer that question yet because the next one's going to give you a much clearer point to get to.
All right. So it was The Grudge, and you also have Paranormal Activity. So I'm thinking it's going to be one of those. It's something like 2000Z. Might be Japanese, but I'm kind of feeling not because of the other suggestions. But, man, it could be so many things. I'm going to throw out the Japanese horror film Dark Waters.
No.
Wonderful.
The year is 2002.
2002. Final Destination?
Nope. All right. After that, I will keep giving you after I give you the year, I'll just keep giving you the next movie, like the sixth movie. Okay. Okay. That's just how the hints will go. So your next movie I'm giving you is Insidious.
But it's not the same director.
It's not the same director. It's not in the Insidious franchise.
I have no idea. I think I could just scramble around. You
right,
might just have to give me this one.
Around. Do you want? Or do you want to try it? Do you want me to tell you and we try again with another round?
I mean, just yeah. I'd say do another round because I'm not gonna get this.
You're gonna feel so dumb. It is. None of these films are directed by Gore Verbinski. It's The Ring.
Oh, it's The Ring. You saw The Ring?
Yeah, I watched The Ring. It's on Netflix. All right.
I had no idea you had any interest in The Ring. Why did you watch The Ring?
Because I'm voting in something that requires me to watch a lot of 2002 movies. Well, I have voted in something, and The Ring was on the watch list, so I watched The Ring.
I thought The Ring, and then I was like, "There's no way Danny watched The Ring."
All right, do you want to do another round then? Try for redemption.
Yes.
All right,
let's do two more of this.
Well, once you get it right, I think we can be done. Unless you want to do two more. All right, give me another number.
This is just a nice round number.
All right,
8.
Fine. 8. Okay. This one I think is a bit easier. All right, number 8. Your 5 films are Modern Vampires, The Fright Night remake, the original Fright Night, Blood-Sucking Bastards, and Vamps.
Interview with the Vampire.
Nope.
Twilight?
Nope. All right, the year is 2014. I will note that's a Letterboxd year. That I don't believe is the U.S. release date.
Aha, you revealed to me another clue, because I think it's Let the Right One In?
Nope. Your sixth film is Lesbian Vampire Killers.
That's the title of the 6th movie?
Yes.
Okay. It's like screaming at me. A girl walks home alone at night?
Nope. Your 7th film, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Well, I get it now. They're all vampire movies. I just can't think of like. So it had a U.S. release. And it's a vampire movie. I don't know it.
Give up?
Yeah, I give up.
Before I say what this is, I want you to pick your next number. Because if I tell you what this is and you pick a related number, it's going to immediately reveal what the other one is. Okay? So I want you to pick your next number now.
I picked 2.
Okay. So I have another podcast called Wise with Ty and Dan, and we're working on the Films of Taika Waititi episode. It is What We Do in the Shadows.
No!
And the reason I said that is because I also have Hunt for the Wilder People. And Hunt for the Wilder People is the fun one this year. Okay? Hunt for the Wilder People is the fun one this year.
Hunt for the Wilder People is a great movie if you haven't seen it. And you might not try and seek it out, but I recommend that you do.
All right. So for number 2, your 5 films are The Killing, Rafifi, Kansas City Confidential, Bob Le Flambeur, and Heat.
The Asphalt Jungle.
Yep.
Oh man! All right. So
is it because did you listen to the Snub Club today? Is that why you know that?
Yeah, if you're up to date on the Snub Club, you can if you're up to date on the Danny Extended Universe, which is the Snub Club, they mentioned that as we're recording this, the next movie they're going to cover is The Asphalt Jungle. So I probably need to watch that too. Yeah.
I want to know your game.
My game. Originally, I thought, the BFI list of the 100 greatest films of all time?
Yes. Well, okay, I don't know the list, but yes, I'm aware it exists.
Okay, so yeah, and very few people know the list, but it's the list where a bunch of critics wrote in films in 2012, and you may have heard about it because this is the list which, air quotes, officially removed Citizen Kane as the greatest film of all time and replaced it with Vertigo. Okay. So this is the list that decided that. And originally, my game was going to be, I was going to give you 2 films from the list and see if you could decide which one is higher ranked.
Ooh, that's actually a good idea. That's a good idea. I like that. And you can keep jumping around with different lists if you want that game, too. This week can be that list.
You're actually ahead of me because my next thought was, if this is a podcast where you don't want me to like talk about controversial Mike Leigh takes, maybe the next list that I have, Rotten Tomatoes has the 200 best LGBTQ plus movies of all time, which is up for Pride Month, which it is when we're recording this. So I was thinking we could do the same thing, but like I'll give you two lists. I'll give you two movies from this list. So first, I think game makes sense, but just saying it again, first time we're doing this, I'm looking at the BFI list of 100 greatest films.
Okay.
I'm going to give Danny two films on the list, and I want him to tell me which he thinks is higher up on the list. All right. So, film number one is going to be Taxi Driver.
Okay.
Film number two.
Film we'll cover on the Snub Club. Spoiler alert for Caleb if he's listening to this. Go on.
That's a huge spoiler. What a spoiler. All right. Movie number one is Taxi Driver. Movie number two, The Godfather, which was considered the better film by film critics who submitted for this poll.
I'll be honest, I thought you were going to be like Taxi Driver or Come and See or something, like, like a foreign film. But no, you're giving me two, like, the great American movies from the 70s.
Well, that's why I thought this was interesting, because I also, like,
I feel like BFI is going to go more academic than populist. In that case, I'll go Taxi Driver.
Wrong. The Godfather is number 21. Taxi Driver is number 24.
Oh, dang. They're close, though. That's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, it's also because I'm like scrolling this and I had one prepared, and then I was like, will he like this game? All right. Here's my prepared one. On the BFI list, which is higher, Billy Wilder's Some Like It Hot or Sunset Boulevard?
So here's my thought process. My gut tells me Sunset Boulevard. But I feel like you're positing me these two because I would assume to guess Sunset Boulevard. And as such, I'm going to guess Some Like It Hot.
You're correct. That was exactly my thought process, and it was foolish of me to do that.
Some Like It Hot is... I haven't seen Sunset Boulevard, but Some Like It Hot is really good.
Sunset Boulevard is great, and I think...
I probably like it.
Yeah, I'll just say, because I'm about to switch over to the Rotten Tomatoes list, a lot of...
save the Rotten Tomatoes list for next up time. Save the Rotten Tomatoes list for the next one. Do not one more on this list. Do a different list every time.
All right. That's a good way to frame this. All right.
Do
you want two films? Do. All right. This is the BFI list game. Do. All right. Let me try to find something that'll be a little more like, how does the BFI clientele, or how does their brain work? The two films on the BFI list, in the last round here, you've got Raging Bull and Apocalypse Now.
See, this is good, because I was going to actually ask, and I'm glad I didn't, because it might have ruined the answer to the question, what's higher? Not what's higher. If Taxi Driver was the highest Scorsese on the list. So you're hitting me again with Scorsese versus Coppola. And I think Scorsese triumphs on this one. I'm going to go Raging Bull.
Wrong.
Dang it!
This is actually interesting. All right, so according to this 2012 poll, we might be getting around to a new poll pretty soon here, because I think this was a 10-year thing. So Apocalypse Now is number 14, and Raging Bull is 53. So if you remember, Taxi Driver was like 24. So Raging Bull is way down there. I really like this game because I think it kind of like shows you how people want to award. Maybe one director gets one movie on this list and what movie they decide that is, which I think pushes Taxi Driver way higher than Raging Bull because people aren't going to double up on a director. And it also just, if you check out the BFI list and you're like me, and when you were little, you were using this to like make Netflix plans about what you were going to mail order from Netflix, you can see that it is so dominated by male directors, and it's crazy.
Well, I don't think people cared in 2012. I hate to say. I think if we do one this year, there'll be way more female directors on it.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now and I'm like, I can think of so many people who are underrepresented, like there's very little Agnes Varda or Jane Campion, and these are all people who, have something on here somewhere, but it's, you can do something where you can, like, The Godfather or The Godfather Part 2.
Yeah, and like Scorsese and Coppola both have 2 things on there at least.
Shall we talk about Red's Dream?
Yes, let's turn into Red's Dream.
Let's turn into a Pixar podcast.
Yeah, it's so long. Red's Dream. This is a short that I always remember liking less, but then when I watch it, I go like, oh, actually, no, I think this is a nice little sweet story. And I always think the interesting factoid about it, which I hinted at last week in our episode, is this is the only one of the main Pixar shorts, like an actually released Pixar short, never to be attached to a movie. This has never been shown on the big screen in front of a Pixar movie. Every other Pixar short we'll be covering, because Lexo Jr. was in front of Toy Story 2, they might have been an old short that they attached to a way later film, but this one has never done it. And it makes sense why, because it's very, like, melancholic in a mood piece. I do think it rubs up against an issue we will see with the next short we will cover, which is they do the character model and the clown. The tech was not there for it, but
yeah,
they mentioned. I think great. I love Red. He's cool.
I think they cheat a little bit with Red because they give him more points of movement than just things that would be on a unicycle, and that kind of frustrated me because I was like, well, why can't he just do everything?
Well, but what are your thoughts beyond that? Like, did you like it? Did you hate it? Do you dream of something better? I don't know.
Oh,
that didn't work. But go on.
Well, not really. I really think that I wanted a little bit more out of it, and I think it's weird looking back at this because I think they revisit a lot of these elements in later shorts, and they execute them a little better. Like they do on stage and performers in spotlights and clowns. Inanimate objects. Oh. What?
Sorry, I was gonna say clowns.
Clowns. Well, I think they do kind of clown stuff in later shows, later shorts.
In Bug's Life, I was thinking. But go on. Sorry.
But even in that, it annoyed me when the pencil took a breath in Pencil Test, and it annoys me when Red the unicycle bends part of his steel frame to express sadness.
Are we gonna have to have a bit? Sorry, I don't mean to be like. I'm not gonna go at you this hard on this, but like, should I prep for when we do our Toy Story episode? To be like, I don't like the moment where Woody's head is in the cereal, and then as soon as Sid leaves, he goes. Because he shouldn't need to breathe anyway, because he's a toy. Sorry, I'm just preemptively saying.
Well, no, because I will defend that by saying that Woody, is alive and breathes through magic, but he does breathe and act like a human, and his model allows him to do that. And I think that it is, more effective. Maybe isn't the right word, but I like that the unicycle obeys the rules of the world. When at the very end and it's dejected, close to the end of the short, it just falls over against the wall, and you get it, and it's so like there's that little joy of understanding the symbolism of it falling against the wall versus very clearly seeing that it's bent over and sad in the dream sequence.
We will talk about Red's Dream, don't worry, but I want to go back to what we were talking about with Toy Story for a second, is that you mentioned that, yes, they breathe. This made me realize, of course they breathe, because we see Buzz breathe in the POV shot where he's looking around Andy's room. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, these toys do breathe. Sorry.
Do we see fog on the glass?
I don't know. We'll have to look for it. I'm not sure if they have the tech for the fog yet.
That would probably annoy me too.
There's fog on the glass.
I just think it's like explore your constraints and create meaning with a limited palette. I think that's more interesting.
I feel like also they probably in Toy Story 1 would try to save money not to do the fog anyway, Anyway, Red's Dream, I agree. I really like the ending. I like the whole tone of the short. I do like that it's sad. my big memory jump on this is what this is what I think I thought when it began is pretty sure I almost have talked about this a few times on the podcast, but I don't think we've gotten really into it. Is when I think of early computer animation that isn't Pixar. Do you know what I think of?
What?
VeggieTales. Did you ever watch VeggieTales growing up?
Yeah, I did.
So, this reminded me incredibly specific. It's crazy, because this is definitely one of those things where I'm watching it and it just took me back to it. And I haven't thought about this specific VeggieTales episode in probably 8 or 9 years, if not longer. And it's the episode where there's an ongoing arc in these videos at one point that, and the Joshua and the Great Wall one. Why are you smiling at me about this?
I'm with you in my brain. I'm just imagining that. All right, I'm so sorry. I'm imagining that every time we do a new game, it has us singing the John Cena theme song.
Because that's a silly song with Danny.
Yes. All right.
Anyway,
I'm sorry. You were mentioning the Wall of Joshua.
Josh and the Great Wall. I believe that's the one where Larry comes out to sing a song about the Cebu, and at the end of it, Archibald Asparagus shuts him down, and they're like, "Oh no! Well, hopefully." He's like, maybe we'll be back next time. We don't know. The next one, which is the Madame Blueberry one, Larry comes out with like a raccoon hat like Davy Crockett, and immediately Archibald's like, nope, this has been preempted for Love Songs with Mr. Lunt. And then the very next video after that was not a like actual episode of VeggieTales. It was a compilation of all the silly songs where Larry is drowning his sorrows in like ice cream at like a bar that's like that modern art painting of the bar. You know what I'm talking about? Like the diner? Yes, like Nighthawks. He is there at Nighthawks, drowning his sorrows in ice cream about how his silly songs got canceled. So it's a compilation of all the silly songs being played on the jukebox at the diner. And at the end, he gets the songs back, and he gets to do one last, like a new silly song at the end. And it's really weird that this thing exists, because I'm pretty sure it's the first time they put out a video that had nothing about Jesus. Absolutely nothing about, like, God. Nothing, none of the religious stuff was in it. It was just the silly songs and Larry being sad that his show got canceled, and he gets it back at the end, because I don't remember why. But anyway, this reminded me of that, because the Nighthawks replication that Larry the Cucumber sat in feels exactly like the exterior of the Spike Shop to me. And honestly, the whole mood of the short is like, man, this really fun thing, like the unicycle, is sad. Just like Larry the Cucumber is sad because he can't be silly, and neither can Red Stream. And it's just like, to me, this is like, what a crazy connection for me to make. That this short unearthed this memory of this very specific VeggieTales episode.
Did you watch, like, a lot of VeggieTales? Because I think I had, like, 1 or 2 VHSs, so I've seen maybe 4 episodes over and over again.
I'm pretty sure I watched all the VeggieTales. Up until a certain point. Because our church had a library that you could check out from, but the only thing they had was VeggieTales and Bible Man, like for kids' DVDs, right? And I guess Penguins when the Penguin show came out. But I know a lot about Big Idea. I remember I read the Big Idea guy's memoir when I was like 12, because my dad had it. Let me tell you, it's actually pretty interesting because Big Idea... This is a VeggieTales podcast now.
I think this is relevant because I think that it is, like, if you've seen a lot of VeggieTales, I want to know about that because it will relate to your consumption of Pixar movies.
Yeah, because it is early computer animation. It is, like, early I'd say, like, VeggieTales of, like, 96, 97. Like, it's not Toy Story level, but it's pretty much as good as you're going to get to Toy Story level, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I pretty much watched I'm pretty sure I watched every single VeggieTales one up until maybe I was 12 or 13, which is a lot because that would be like 2007. I remember we saw the VeggieTales movie, the Jonah one, in theaters, and I was going to say I read the memoir, and the memoir is actually really interesting because, you know, like, it's like about the rise of computer animation somewhat. Again, this is memories from like 2008, 2009, whenever I read this book.
Do not fact check us with the memoir of the guy from Big Idea.
Yeah, it's like, the initial thing is that it's actually kind of similar to Toy Story 2 when we talk about it, is Toy Story 2 was initially designed to be a film for, like, direct-to-video. and I'm sure we'll talk about this when we talk about Toy Story 2, but it was originally designed to be a movie for direct-to-video. People at Disney saw it and was like, no, we'll just put this in theaters. Then the guys at Pixar saw it, and they're like, we cannot put this in theaters unless we radically rework this film. Something similar happened with the Jonah VeggieTales movie, because it was just, they were trying to push their limits longer than like the 20-30-minute VHSs they put out. So they're like, let's make an hour-long movie about Jonah. And then they're like, well, Jonah's actually looking really good. What if we make it just about 20 minutes long, we add some bookends, and we make it a movie that we put out that will give us a budget to make the movie we actually want to make. And the movie they actually want to make, I'm so bummed it never happened. Like, as someone who loved VeggieTales as a kid, I guarantee you this movie would have been like, it's kind of like, you remember the Powerpuff Girls movie?
Yes, I remember that.
I remember being so mad seeing the Powerpuff Girls movie, because the Powerpuff Girls movie really obviously should be like, they team up with Mojo Jojo to stop him, right? Like, that is the obvious plot to go with. Like, a big, like, an actual big deal type of thing, like the biggest deal the Powerpuff Girls have to deal with. And the movie's actually just an origin story, which you don't need because the theme song already gives you that origin story, right? So It's like, the movie's entertaining enough, but it's like, it's whatever. Because also it's like, these people don't like the girls, but I know they're going to turn out okay because I've seen the Powerpuff Girls. I know they're all friends with their classmates at school. So there's no drama in it as a kid. There's no real stakes to it. And also, like, Mojo Jojo being the villain is like, who cares? Like he's a hero in half the episodes. I don't want him to be the villain, you know?
Yeah.
Point being made is that that's what Jonah VeggieTales movie is, because it's kind of, you know, it's just Jonah as a VeggieTales story. Whereas the actual movie they had was called like the Bob and Larry movie, and it was going to be like their take on like the Muppet movie, where it's like, this is how Bob and Larry got their Christian TV show. And they got a deal. And there were going to be humans in it. There was going to be humans in this movie. That would have been insane.
That seems so far beyond like what VeggieTales was capable of. I cannot imagine Bob and Larry like out in the real world.
No, but they're going to be CGI humans. They're going to be CGI humans, not like the Muppets.
That would be worse.
I know, because it's like, we're talking about like 2006. They would have been like Ice Age humans, which are terrifying to look at. Actually, they probably actually wouldn't be that bad, because if you remember, they had that Penguin show which had a kid in it, and that kid, like, he looked like Jimmy Neutron. Like, it'd probably be Jimmy Neutron level, which isn't too bad. It's not great, but it's not terrible.
The Penguins of Madagascar had a kid?
No. Okay. So, big idea. Big idea. Let me tell you how Big Idea failed. Not only did they invest way too much in this Jonah movie that bombed at the box office, because Jonah is not a compelling pitch to parents who had just watched these movies at home. They'll just be like, we'll wait for the VHS and we'll buy it for you then. You know, like, we're not going to take you out to see Jonah. Whereas, like, if there were humans there, that'd be a big deal, right? The other reasons is they kept on expanding too much. They made another show that did not sell as well, VeggieTales, called 321 Penguins, which are about these 4 penguins who are in a spaceship that lives in this kid's toy ship. And the kid, like, gets kidnapped by the penguins, and they learn lessons about God somehow. Like, I don't remember. I barely watched that one. Then they also made, which was a way better show than it deserves credit for. Like, the theme song gets stuck in my head. I saw something on Twitter this week where someone was like, the Danny Phantom's theme did not need to slap so hard, which is true. The Danny Phantom theme song is really good. But you know what's an even better theme song? The Larry Boy theme song. What the world needs now is a hero, one that's kind and true and brave but bold. If you haven't guessed yet, then it's time you know. Yeah, that's how it goes. Anyway, I'm filibustering
I remember
right
that.
now.
You like knocked something loose there.
Yeah, it's a great, but that was like a Flash animated show, or at least like a show that looks more like something that would air on Cartoon Network. It's not CGI, but even though it looks like cheap animation, you know, then it's like this computer animation studio has to invest in like traditional animation stuff that even if it's cheap, it's totally different material you have to work with, right? So they just overexpanded too quickly. And then they overspent on Jonah, so then they're like, we need to be bought out. And they were bought out by someone, and they kicked out the guy who invented it, even though he voices Bob. All this to be said, I don't remember what my point was about the memoir, but it was interesting because it was like, we overexpanded too much, and we failed, and now I have to ask God, why did we fail with this thing that was lucratively very successful for God, and something that we really... It's an interesting thing, like, religiously. I don't know, I think I think religion is interesting, and my own relationship to it, you know? I don't actually want to get too much into that on this. But
it's, you know.
It's a little too heavy for what I want to get into.
All right.
But I think about, like, one of my main ideas for, like, a drama I'd want to write is I'd like to write a drama someday. You know those movies that are, like, those Christian movies that come out these days, right? Where it's, like...
These days, yes.
Well, like, you know, because Christian movies used to be, like, have a budget to them. Like, and now they're just, like, all these unknown actors, no shame to the actors, or even to the people involved, all these unknown actors, like, they're firefighters, and one of them gets hurt while fighting fire, and... So they're like, oh God, what's going on? And then people pray for them and they get better. You know, it's stuff like that. I want to write a drama, probably actually a play, about like someone who's like, there was that movie Breakthrough. And I don't know if you remember the specific one. I saw this one because it was Oscar nominated for song, which is really funny. But it's like a cheap Christian movie with the woman from This Is Us. And Topher Grace is in it too as a youth pastor. But anyway,
cool.
Yeah, I know. I think it was his role. I know, because it's 2019. It's his role that happened, because I saw it around the time Avengers Endgame came out. His role is like, right after he did Black Klansman. That's my whole point of laughing about it, is that he did Black Klansman and it was David Duke, and then he played a youth pastor right after it. Anyway.
He's a working actor, man.
Yeah, he's a working actor.
Those roles.
Yeah, and he's great in Black Klansman, and he was probably the best part of this movie, too. But anyway, it's like about a kid who's like playing on the ice, and he goes under the ice, and then Chrissy Metz is the mom, and she's like, oh, I don't know what's going on. Like, should I pray to God? And she does, and of course, like, the kid gets better, and like, yeah. And then, like, at the end, it's like this postscript where it's like, this kid ended up going to school to learn to be a minister. And I'm like, man, you would be such a great, like, drama. No one steals this idea, and if you do, this is on the record for my idea. But what if there was like a drama that was about... In my mind, for some reason, I was like, this would be like a role for Oscar Isaac to destroy and be so good in. It's like, that guy, right? That kid goes to school and realizes he actually does not want to be a minister. In fact, he doesn't even know if he believes in God. But then he comes back home, and like 20 years after like the incident happened to the ice, and everyone keeps talking to him about it, and he's like, we want you to speak at church because you went to school, like, you know, you're a preacher, like you have your license, and it's been 20 years since that incident happened. We want you to talk about it. It's like this big like Paul Schrader-esque crisis of faith type of, not even crisis of faith, but like, how do I interact with these people at home who believe I am someone who I am not anymore? Anyway, VeggieTales.
No, I mean, I see where that's going, and I think that casting Oscar Isaac in that would be interesting. Yeah, I know. I mean, I think that like,
and to be clear, I thought about this. I had that idea before the card counter came out, and before Oscar Isaac casted the card counter. I'm not ripping you up, Paul Schrader. I love your Facebook.
Yeah. Well, it's just because you mentioned that, I think that there are actually podcasts which are about Christian movies, and they might have more to say about this than we do. But just because it's something that's on my brain, and you kind of brought it up, I think I have this desire for a few more movies that kind of tackle people's complicated relationships to religion. Because I don't think Martin Scorsese movies or other things that are considered like Catholic movies actually do that. I think that...
that's funny, because I think the movie that's gotten close to that for me is Silence. But go on. I'm not Catholic.
Okay, but see, well, maybe Catholic is a weird example because Catholicism kind of is like an institution, and it has an element of itself. I mean, of course, a lot of religions do, but like Catholicism is sort of famous for having an extra religious arm to it, like it's a political force.
I get what you're saying. You know, it's an institution. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what I'm saying is that like I see very few movies deal with the institution of Catholicism in a way that I understand it. Like Martin Scorsese's characters might have grown up in like Catholic homes, but they don't really interact with like figures in the church unless it's like Jack Nicholson being like, hey, Mr. Priest, getting a coffee. You know, here's a off-color joke for you. And that's kind of the only way we experience that. But like, I remember when I was growing up, like these people are regular parts of your lives. Like a priest or someone is really like a major supporting character versus a character actor, if you want to put it in that way. Yeah. And so I think that there's a market for films which have, like a major supporting character as a priest. I actually think The Exorcist is kind of an interesting example because the priest character is such a big part of people's lives and also functions as like a member of the community versus like a religious
compared to like figure. The Conjuring, where The Conjuring, yes, there's religion in it, but it's not. It's just
but it's not like
the Warrens. Yeah, it's not like the Warrens have a role in the religion outside of, or like with the priest outside of like, hey, can we do this exorcism? Yeah, sure. Like that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And the priest really, like, that is a bit part in that movie. I just have a, like, because it is a part of a lot of people's lives, and I think that it's an underrepresented in media. I think that's underrepresented in media is the way that, like, religion is a part of your environment and a part of your life in a lot of ways, and not just something that, like, the scene doesn't begin when you've just come home from church. It's like going to church and, doing religious. This is all kind of coming from like assumptions about Christianity, which is what we're most familiar with, but obviously not for everyone. But like, that's just not something I see a lot.
No, I think there's a big issue.
So I think
I love that our episode about Red's Dream is about like Christianity and Christian films. But
man, I think we've said 20 words about Red's Dream in an hour and 4 minutes, and honestly, I'm alright with that.
I think that doing an episode on Red's Dream that is about VeggieTales really is. I think VeggieTales is very relevant to this podcast, and I think Christianity and discussion of the evolution of Christian films and media inherently comes from talking about VeggieTales. So I don't really have too much of an issue on this tangent. I think the issue to me is like a lot of things nowadays, people just want their comfort food. They don't want to be challenged. And so that's why, you get more stuff like, and I know you said Silence isn't what you're looking at, but that's why Silence does like $5 million total at the box office. Whereas like these movies I'm talking about like, oh, there's a football coach who prays to God and like, hey, God answers his prayer and the team wins, even though actually that's not really what it is. It's like
that doesn't happen in Silence. Wait, what are you talking?
No. This is a different. This is an actual Christian movie. Oh God. Okay, this is a different story. Quick story. This is like the first of these movies because I know they're all by the same director. But it's called Facing the Giants. I remember being so mad because I would go as a kid to this retreat in the winter with my Christian youth group. Like, just, yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it was something we do on Wednesdays and, like, Wednesday night Bible or whatever. And it was, like, kind of, like, you do dodgeball, too, and you do some crafts, and you can go camping. And in the winter, we went on winter retreat. And on Saturday night in the winter retreat, we always watched a movie. And, like, my brother was older than me, and he saw, like, I remember he saw, like, Revenge of the Sith there. He saw, I'm trying to think what else they saw. I think they watched Spider-Man there once. It was, like, blockbuster movies were like, here's how it can be about God. They showed Facing the Giants the 2 years I went. They showed it twice in a row, and they never did that before I went. I was so mad. They didn't. Actually, I went 3 years. The first year they did Miracle, which makes sense. Miracle is also a good movie. Solid Kurt Russell film. But the other 2 years, like, they showed... Is that
a God movie, or is that, like,
no, it's not. That's like one
movie.
That's not a God movie, but it's like one that was like, okay, I'm okay with that, 'cause it's like Revenge of the Sith, even though it's not as cool as Revenge of the Sith.
Messages.
Yeah. But Facing the Giants is like, it's someone gets hired to be a football coach at like a Christian academy. He's like, Christianity's dumb, but then eventually like the team prays for his wife to be able to have a kid, and then she conceives miraculously. And like, I don't remember exactly what happened, but I was like, oh my gosh, like, I don't care about this. And the thing is, it's funny, it's like, they're like, Danny, you didn't care, you liked Miracle. I'm like, yeah, but like, Miracle's hockey. Hockey is cool. Like, high school football is not as cool as Miracle.
Are you aware of the movie Remember the Titans?
Yeah, I like Remember the Titans, even though feel like it's probably really dated now, but I remember liking it.
I thought you were talking about that movie because I remember watching it on Catholic school bus trips, and I think of it as a religious film, even though it's probably not technically one.
No, the only movie
so it sounds like someone took that and like Remember the Giants is like a knockoff.
I remember seeing the only thing I remember seeing on a Christian bus ride. You know what I mean?
Wait,
like
what was the word you just said?
I said Christian bus ride.
Wait, no, you said I remember on something.
Oh, no. The only movie I've seen on a Christian bus ride that I can remember specifically which movie it was, and I've only seen it on that bus ride, was Adventures of Tintin. And I remember saying, like, afterwards, wow. I was like, I didn't really like that animation style. And my pastor was like, really? I thought it looked really cool. And I was like, okay. The one thing we did do on that trip, that was like a long weekend retreat. So on our Christian retreat, we started to do crank calling, like local pizza places, of course. But it wasn't like, it was like the chaperones were like helping us do this. Not these were like people who had just gone to college and they just got out of high school. So they're like, yeah, you can be a chaperone and come on the high school retreat. Sure. So we go there, and I remember we just call pizza places, and then he's like, guys, I got an idea for like the concert. And he looks up the gambling hotline, and we call up, he's like, all right, this is Gambling Help Hotline, how can I help you? And he just goes, I'm so sorry, I can't, I need to quit the like, it's too much. I can't go a day without betting, like, I bet you $2. Oh, I did it again. And immediately the person on the line's like, sir, I'll have you know that it is a federal crime to crank call a hotline. And he immediately just slams the door. Oh, that's a good memory.
That's so relatable. I wonder if that's true.
I have no idea. I haven't, but it is a good way to get anyone to hang up immediately. No one's gonna check. No one's gonna look that up.
Yeah.
But everyone's just gonna immediately trust that. Like, okay, whatever. Red's Dream.
Red's Dream, a mid-entry in the Pixar short catalog.
It's a good. Honestly. It's got some nice mood elements to it though, and it makes sense why it's not attached to any film. You know, like it's too sad.
Yeah. People talk about it and they are like, it's a success that it's sad, but I'm kind of like, yeah, it's sad. It's, that's story structure. You've shown that you can tell a story, so
it's funny. I just remembered, like, when I was talking about VeggieTales, I was going to seg this back to, like, and it's kind of like Red's Dream, because Red is dreaming of another life, like a good afterlife for him, and I was like, no, I can't seg that back anymore. We've talked too much about it. But there were some things I wanted to mention about Red's Dream that we didn't get to, which is it's the first Pixar Easter egg I've seen, because the floor of the circus is the Luxo Jr. logo, or ball, whatever you want to call it, The other thing I want to point out is, did you watch the credits?
I might have done, but I don't remember anything that maybe you're going to talk about.
There's a disclaimer at the end that like has like the general like don't rip this off type of thing, but then it's also like there's a joke in there I can't remember, but the last 4 words in it is always wear a helmet, which got me. I was like, haha, funny critics.
That's very good. I like imagining that some kid is going to read the disclaimer at the end of the credits.
This probably wasn't designed for kids because it's sad. And remember, this is still at the point where they're trying to prove computer animation can be used as like an art form. So to me, this is like their attempt to make something more adult, even though, yes, it's about a unicycle who just wants to be ridden by a clown. But yeah, I don't know. There really is not much to talk about here, unlike Luxo Jr., which like Luxo Jr. is so obviously such a massively influential short film. And the next short film we're going to be talking about is also such a massively influential short film. And then this is what we try to do in between. And there's some clear steps forward, particularly, as I said, in the mood of it. And I think those exterior shots are so good in this.
Yeah, I think that's something I read online, and I mean, this is probably just available on Wikipedia, but I believe, as I understand it, the exterior and dream sequences were made on different equipment. So that's why exterior shots look amazing, and the dream sequences,
Why didn't they do the exterior? Why didn't they do the clown model on the exterior shots?
Well, if you want the other thing that the Wikipedia article told me, it's because they wanted to use the Pixar computer for the whole thing. They used it for the dream sequences, but it was not actually able to do them very well, so that's why they never used it again.
Oh, so this is a...
So it was like they wanted to use their thing, but it didn't work.
This was what happens when you try to use volume visualization on the Pixar image computer.
Yes.
And it's funny, because right now I think the volume still makes stuff look ugly. That's a joke for Mandalorian fans. I'm going to watch Obi-Wan right after we record.
Hypocrisy.
Yeah, I know. I don't know, like, I think this is interesting. And a part of me kind of wishes we did, like, more of a focused episode on this, but I also think talking about VeggieTales and religion is always a good way to go,
I mean,
too.
let's talk about a more focused episode. I really just, I don't know, I want to be disciplined about it.
There's nothing here.
It's something like that. It's really just like, you described one show short a few episodes back as being like a gag reel. And I kind of felt like that's what it was, but it was like the gag of being sad. Like it's just
the
it's
gag
a
of being sad is a great line.
Yeah, well, it's that they're showing that they can evoke sadness. Really, there's just not a whole.
So what you're telling me is this is actually a very pivotal step forward, because what people think of when they think about Pixar is that's the movie that's going to make me cry.
Yes, this is the first movie that foreshadows all of Pixar to come, which is it will make you sad. I thought I will actually, we could talk a little bit more about, like, I think the use of color is really striking. I like how the exteriors have this balance. I remember them, I say I remember them, I watched this pretty short time ago, but like I remember them as being very colorful but still dark, which I think is an interesting balance. Like I remember because the dream sequence is so stark, and it seems like it's just primary colors against a black background, but the exterior shots have this complexity that I thought was really nice.
No, I mean, as I said, like, it really does do a good job. I don't know. The way I'll honestly describe my watching experience of this is I kind of disassociated during the dream sequence, which is funny because that's supposed to be like the calling card of this short. But I was more just struck by like how great the mood was in the non-dream sequence. That like once that clown showed up that looks terrible, I'm just kind of like whatever, So
the sadness even comes from the parts that are outside of the dream sequence, which are totally different. I think it was fun for me to kind of work out mentally how the unicycle was going to juggle the balls.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I think it's interesting watching that, and I don't know why, I felt a little bit of tension when I was watching that, because I, of course, knew that they could make it do whatever they wanted, but working out how that would look a certain way on a unicycle, I think, was interesting, and it made me think that I had a tension, not that it would drop it, but I had a tension that I expected them to fake it somehow, and they didn't. And I thought that was really interesting that they were able to actually make it juggle in a 3D space versus, making it do whatever they want, which is possible with 2D animation. So I guess that's another thing that is really interesting about this, is that really juggling balls could only happen in a 3D space, and that's a big leap forward.
That's a good point.
They're able to.
That's a good point. I think when you say that, I think about how Disney always said, and we don't need to go down this tangent too much, but it's like how people are like, how dare you start, back when, after Princess Frog came out, they started doing musicals in CGI, and they're like, how could you do this originally? And it's like, well, how are we going to do Rapunzel's hair in traditional animation and make it look good? How are we going to do these ice stuff in Frozen and make it look good? Moana, how are we going to make the ocean a character? And honestly, since Moana, no one's asked that question anymore, because like these are executed well. There's a reason for all of these. And that's a good point to make about the juggling in the 3D space. Yeah. Especially because if you think about it, comparing this to the last two main Pixar ones, Andre and Wall-E takes place completely in a flat dimension. And although Luxo Jr., like, the characters aren't flat, the camera never moves. So inherently, this is a dramatic leap forward in terms of, like, it actually having shots and stuff, too.
Mm-hmm.
Are we done?
Yeah, what are we talking about next time? I was kind of interested that we actually tried, and then we pulled something neat out of Red's dream. Do you have anything else that you want to talk about?
I have nothing else to talk about Red's dream. We got it. Let's not push for it. Yeah. All right.
Cool.
And I still think I argue that still our discussion of Christianity is more interesting than what we did pull out Red's dream.
That's cool as long as we're both on that page of all right, we're putting out good content based on Red's dream. All right, cool. So, what's our next thing?
We are going on our first detour. I was thinking too. Okay. Maybe we should do a different theme song for the detours. I don't know. Maybe it's just like a fart.
I think noise. It should be not that one, but yeah, I think
like
eventually. Eventually, I'll make some time and write different things for all of these.
But not only is it our first detour, but it's our first feature-length film we'll be covering.
Yes.
We will be dedicating an episode to The Brave Little Toaster. A film written by Joe Ranft, originally, I believe, pitched by John Lasseter. We'll have all the details there on the Pixar connection. Of course, next week we haven't done the research on that yet. We also haven't rewatched the movie yet. But it'll be really exciting. Traditionally for movies, we're going to try to have guests, but since this is our first time we're doing it, and it's not only it's our first detour, and it's our first feature-length movie, we're just going to do it by ourselves.
We didn't think we'd actually have guests on for detours, and then we saw some of our detours, and then we were like, oh, we should get guests on for these. So exactly. Brave Little Toaster, we're going alone, but we'll try to get more guests on for detours in the future.
I think inherently a movie's going to, even though we will still take the tangents we can, there's going to be probably a lot more to discuss than what we normally discuss. So.
Oh, yeah. Spoiler alert, I watched the first 20 minutes of it a week ago because I was just like, what's this going to be about? I think we'll have stuff to talk about.
I already know what I'm going to talk about. Having not seen the movie in 6 years, not 6 years,
in 6 years?
No.
Wow.
And probably honestly, how old am I? 26? Probably
Join
22
us on
years.
Our annual,
probably 22.
Our annual Brave Little Toaster rewatch.
And that will just be about my personal stuff. But I also do want to break down that movie because it is very much a proto Toy Story.
Looking for the Ocean, a Pixar podcast, is produced by Mark Young and Danny Vincent. I do the editing, and our artwork is done by Sarah Knopf.
Yeah, and you can find us at Facebook at Looking for the Ocean, a Pixar Journey. You can find us on Twitter at Pixar Journey, and on Instagram at Looking for the Ocean Pod. You can also email us at lookingfortheoceanpixar@gmail.com.
If you want to know what I'm up to, everything is available on my website, markyoungperformer.com.
You can listen to my other two podcasts, Wise with Ty and Dan and The Snub Club, wherever you can find your podcasts. You can also find me on Letterboxd at Blankmints for all my takes on all of the movies. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.